What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another wrestling news video. As always, there's lots of goings on in the wrestling world, and today's headlines looks at why Carmella has been off television, the AEW Championship belt has been found in an interesting place, WWE's 2K20 showcase matches have been revealed, Pac and Kenny Omega are upset, a huge AEW Full Gear match has been confirmed, we're getting a 2019 WWE Draft, Eric Bischoff is the butt of a joke backstage, and Ric Flair threatens to sue WWE. Let's get straight into our first story as to why Carmella has been off television. Former SmackDown Women's Champion Carmella has been an instrumental part of R-Truth's winning and holding on to the 24/7 championship for as long as possible, as he's always on alert from his pursuers and challengers, and Carmella seems to help out by adding some distractions. However, R-Truth's trusty sidekick has been noticeably absent from television. Well, Money Mella explained on Instagram that she took time off due to a recent health scare, and shared her thoughts on the situation, posting a long explanation. Something thankfully we won't be reading out in this video. She posted it with a picture of a quote, and even though Carmella didn't give any details on the situation, we're just glad that she's doing okay. Next up, the AEW Championship belt has been found in an interesting place. Bust out a little bit of the bubbly, as after 24 hours of the belt being stolen/missing, Chris Jericho has been reunited with the gold once again after winning it over the weekend, and strangely enough, it was found on the side of the road. What the hell? Yep, Tallahassee reporter Jeffrey Berlew confirmed on Twitter saying, "Breaking. Tallahassee Police Department announces it did in fact recover Jericho's championship belt earlier today. Someone turned it in at headquarters after reportedly finding it along the side of the road. The golden belt was valued at nearly $30,000. He continued, "No arrests have been made in the theft of Jericho's championship belt, which was recovered today. Investigators with Tallahassee Police Department are asking anyone with information to call them." Interestingly enough, the belt went missing at around 5:30 PM Sunday afternoon, but it took Jericho 2 hours to report the incident to the police. Not sure why, maybe he gave 2 hours just to have a look round. He must have searched that restaurant up and down. But nevertheless, all has ended well, as Jericho cut a promo on his Instagram page with the belt in hand, and of course, some bubbly.
"I once again demand, and rightfully so now more than ever, a thank you from the entire AEW fan base, from the entire AEW roster, backstage, front office, in the ring, all across the board, because I did once again exactly what I told you I was going to do. I got this championship back, and I am never, ever letting it out of my sight again."
Next up, WWE's 2K20 showcase matches have been revealed. Now we're just counting down the days when we finally get our hands on the latest edition of the WWE 2K series video game, which will be released on 22nd October 2019. Now, we've gone a bit bonkers and ordered the SmackDown 20th Anniversary Edition, which set us back £140. That's a cool $172 for viewers in the US, but we're sure it'll be worth it. Please God be worth it. We're definitely looking forward to playing the showcase mode, which this year focuses on the women's revolution, starting from the first ever NXT takeover to the women main eventing WrestleMania 35. Of course, 2K haven't included every single match between that time, but they picked the most prolific matches, and those 15 matches are Charlotte Flair with Ric Flair vs Natalya with Bret Hart at NXT takeover, Sasha Banks vs Charlotte Flair vs Bayley vs Becky Lynch at NXT takeover, Bayley vs Sasha Banks at NXT takeover Brooklyn, Charlotte Flair with Paige and Becky Lynch vs Nikki Bella and Brie Bella and Alicia Fox at Night of Champions 2015, Charlotte Flair with Ric Flair vs Becky Lynch vs Sasha Banks at WrestleMania 32, Sasha Banks vs Charlotte with Dana Brooke on Raw, Becky Lynch vs Alexa Bliss vs Carmella vs Naomi vs Natalya vs Nikki Bella at Backlash, Charlotte Flair vs Sasha Banks at Hell in a Cell, Becky Lynch vs Mickie James at Elimination Chamber, Bayley vs Charlotte Flair on Raw, Sasha Banks vs Nia Jax at Fastlane, Bayley vs Charlotte Flair vs Nia Jax vs Sasha Banks at WrestleMania 33, Charlotte Flair vs Asuka at WrestleMania 34, Becky Lynch vs Charlotte Flair at Evolution, and last but not least, Becky Lynch vs Charlotte Flair vs Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania 35. 2K also released a trailer featuring Stone Cold Steve Austin and Hulk Hogan talking about how cool that a woman is now the man, and Hogan points out there was no question of who the man was in their day. This leads to Sting, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels appearing, and stating that they were the man of their era. Pretty cool to see all these legends in the same room, and we're not sure how the world just didn't explode with Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan in the same room together.
Step inside and be the man.
Our next story looks at Pac and Kenny Omega being upset. The former opened the Dreamgate champion Pac substituted an injured Jon Moxley at AEW's All Out pay-per-view, but despite the last-minute substitution, Pac and Omega went on to have an incredible match, arguably one of the best of the night. However, after the match, both wrestlers were none too pleased with each other about the match. Jericho revealed on his podcast Omega and Pac's reaction backstage, saying, "Afterward, I guess Kenny and Pac were mad because their match went too long and they had to cut a bunch of stuff and they were not happy about it. Meanwhile, it's like the best match on the show." Well, this is wrestling, and perhaps this will just be one of many encounters between the two in the near future where they'll hopefully at some point be satisfied with their bout. Speaking of AEW, there's a huge AEW Full Gear match confirmed. We didn't get Jon Moxley vs Kenny Omega at All Out, but don't sound so glum, my little chums. It's happening at the next AEW pay-per-view Full Gear, which, can we add, is a really stupid name. Okay, it's probably still not as stupid as Great Balls of Fire, but that'll be happening in November, and the two will no doubt reignite the feud when AEW debuts on TNT on 2nd October. Next up, some of the biggest news as the WWE is bringing back the draft. Now, it's safe to say the WWE Superstar shakeup this year was a complete and utter disaster. The shakeup in itself was pointless, as a number of random WWE superstars all of a sudden turned up on different shows without any rhyme or reason. It also made it meaningless when superstars could just show up at any time during the nonsensical wildcard rule, making it feel there was zero exclusivity between the brands and what set them apart. It also made no sense when Vince McMahon announced that he made the largest talent acquisition in SmackDown history, as how is this the largest talent acquisition, even in terms of storyline, when it's well known that you own both brands? If two general managers were at war trying to get the biggest superstars on their brand, such as in the past when the WWE Draft debuted and a brand war commenced between Vince McMahon and Ric Flair, it made perfect sense, even if it ultimately started with a random draft lottery. However, it seems WWE wants to rid of their mistakes by phasing out the wildcard rule completely. Dave Meltzer speculated last month of a draft to keep the two respective rosters more permanent, considering the Fox and USA deals. He mentioned, "Right now, there is a concept of another draft type of thing to build permanent Raw and SmackDown rosters. What we were originally told is that they wouldn't be making major changes, but some changes, but this is Vince. Everything is being kept quiet, and USA and Fox will be the first to know when the concept is decided." Well, as it goes, wrestling's favourite curmudgeon was right, as per a report from John Pollock of Post Wrestling, who mentioned the next WWE Draft is set to kick off on the second episode of Friday Night SmackDown on 11th October in Las Vegas. This means that the Blue brand will have the first pick of the bunch. However, since the draft is not officially confirmed for that date, Brad Shepard believes that it might start 2 days early on NXT. He tweeted, "The WWE Draft confirms the end of the wildcard rule, as I reported weeks ago. I confirmed the draft dates for Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, which John Pollock reported, although I'm told the draft may actually start on the October 9th episode of NXT, to be decided. As you know, NXT will be competing with AEW's TNT show, and holding a draft on the same day as the second TNT show could be a very smart move, and enough for some viewers to change the channel over to USA Network. Who could be moving though? Brock Lesnar is certainly somebody who would make a huge impact on the Blue brand, and he hasn't wrestled on it since March 2nd, 2004. Could we see Roman Reigns back on Monday Night Raw? What other big moves could you see?" Our next story looks at Eric Bischoff being the butt of a joke backstage. After several years of being away from a wrestling product, the man who saved WCW has been rehired by the WWE as Executive Director of SmackDown Live, the same role given to Paul Heyman, who was in charge of Raw. However, there's a key difference with how they work, as Heyman has spent a lot of his time with the Red Brand roster. In fact, he's been the driving force behind Sasha Banks' heel turn and writing her entire promos and giving her full direction. Bischoff, on the other hand, has been slowly transitioning into the role, which seems smart as he hasn't been in the game for many years, and many things have evolved since he was executive producer for TNA. The problem with Bischoff though is he wasn't even watching the current product before taking the job, though surprisingly this wasn't a well-kept secret. Meltzer mentioned that Eric's lack of knowledge of the current product is a running joke backstage. He mentioned, "That's the plan right now. He has to do with the draft so they can reshuffle the rosters. Paul Heyman can get a few of the guys he wants. Bischoff, if he knows who the people are on the roster, maybe he figure out who he wants." It's been one of the running jokes that Bischoff doesn't even know who the talent is yet, but there you go. And lastly, a top headline, Ric Flair threatens to sue WWE. Now when you think of the man in wrestling, who immediately comes into your head? The man Becky Lynch, or the man Ric Flair, a moniker the 16-time world champion used in the past, and a name that he recently trademarked for wrestling and merchandise purposes. Flair registered the trademark on 26 August 2019, probably after witnessing the WWE selling the man merchandise and it becoming a #1 seller. Flair confirmed the trademark on Twitter saying, "To be the man, you got to beat the man. Hashtag already trademarked." Now according to TMZ, Flair was on amicable terms with WWE and had worked out an agreement where he would get paid for Lynch's merchandising, but apparently the WWE blew him off. Rick told TMZ Sports he was trying to work out an amicable, private agreement with WWE where they would pay him to allow Becky to continue to use the name, but the WWE blew him off. He escalated the matter over to Triple H, but apparently he ignored him as well. So if Flair is unable to get paid, he'll pursue legal action to take what is his. The ball currently seems to be in his court as he has a successful trademark, so the WWE could be paying out big time. It'd be smart if they could just strike a deal now. What are your thoughts on these stories? Be sure to comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.